WB News Talk 980. This is Dr. Chambers on Call, keeping you healthy without that stupid copay. 888-539-2980 is the number to call. That's 888-539-2980. Chewing gum, is it good for you or not? Well, it's not really that bad for you. It's not going to shorten your life. It's not going to kill you. But I don't think it's really that good. But chewing gum is here to stay. Chewing gum has been around since the ancient Greeks, because they used to peel the bark from some trees and they used it as a breath sweetener, believe it or not. So it's been around a while. When I was a kid, we were always told these little myths that it would take like 7 years to absorb it, or it would tie your guts in a knot and you die. And that's called volvulus, you know. And there are many causes of volvulus, but chewing gum is not one of them. So those are all myths. But why do people chew gum? I think sometimes it's because some women feel that, hey, it might decrease what I'm eating. It might decrease my appetite. It might make me less hungry. When I go to eat, I might eat less. Well, that's not really true. There's no evidence whatsoever that people who chew gum eat less. In fact, there's some evidence that people who chew gum, when they're eating healthy food like fruits and veggies, it kind of puts an odd taste on the food. And you end up eating more of the bad food, more of the junk food. So I wouldn't recommend that, ladies. I wouldn't recommend that at all. When you're chewing gum, you're swallowing a lot of air. So you're burping a lot. And there's also air out the other end as well. Yeah. Because sometimes then when young women come in and they're complaining of a lot of flatulence, that they're, coming out the back end at the wrong time, if you ask them to open the purse, you'll find a lot of gum in there and suggest to them that they stop. Some people say that the peppermint in gum can, interfere with your esophagus, so it doesn't close right, so you get a lot of reflux. I'm not sure how true that is. Clearly, if there's a lot of sugar in your gum, you're going to damage your teeth. There's no question about that. But what about the sugarless gum, the sorbitol? Well, sorbitol, take lactose intolerance. You're chewing your gum with your sorbitol, it gets into your system, goes down your colon. It's only a question of time before it meets some bacteria. When it meets bacteria, you may not be happy. Bloating, cramping, and maybe even diarrhea. Not for everybody, but for some people. If you're chewing a lot, it affects the muscles in your face. So if you've got like TMJ disorder, the temporal mandibular joint disorder, you get that chronic pain at the side of you when you're chewing, gum is not a good thing. And we know for a fact that teenagers who chew a lot have increased incidence of migraine. So what's the good news about chewing gum? Well, the people who make it make billions of dollars. That's one good thing, I guess. Some people do claim that it improves your concentration. And I think that may well be true. That may well be true. So one of the things that people do a lot of when they're chewing gum is in the hope that it's going to stop them eating. As I said, it doesn't. And it brings me to this little point that I saw earlier this week. And I thought, really? Is this where we are now? And it's about this thing called the Bikini Bridge. Do you know what that is? And a lot of teenagers are doing this. They're lying down in a bikini bottom and they're taking a selfie, a little photograph from the top, looking down at their abdomen. And the bikini is raised because their hips are sticking out. And it's called the Bikini Bridge. Now, to achieve a bikini bridge, guess what? Of course, you've got to be super thin. You've got to be stupidly thin. You've got to be unhealthily thin to achieve this. But it's all the rage. Is it any wonder that we in America are obsessed with food? Is it any wonder that we've got a huge rate of anorexia nervosa and all these other eating disorders? This week there's a hit show on HBO called Girls. And the actor, writer, director, star, her name is Lena Durham. Now, I know a lot of you haven't seen this show, so let me just fill you in what it is. It's about 20-somethings, millennials in New York trying to find themselves. As numerous people have tried in years past, every 20-year-old goes to New York to become an artist or whatever. It's kind of a fun show. Critics love it. Ratings are not that high, but hey, it's HBO. One of the things that people criticize the show for is a lot of nudity. And this week at the Critics Association, they went on at her, and one critic was actually kind of mean to her, said, like, why are you naked so often in the show? Because you're kind of overweight and maybe not as attractive as what we normally see in television. So much so the show creators savaged the critic, and rightly so. Rightly so. But Miss Durham is on the front cover of Vanity Fair this January. And she looks quite stunning. Quite ravishing. So much so that Jezebel, the feminist magazine, are all up in arms about this and said, hey, Lena, did you actually get yourself airbrushed for Vogue magazine to look more like what they expect you to look? Because you know what Jezebel's big thing is that people are pushing out there unnatural, false images of what real women look like. So when I read this article, I was kind of disappointed in Miss Durham because one of the things that she's most famous for is being natural and letting it all hang out. So if you go to the Jezebel article, and I have a link to it on my Facebook page, which is Dr. Chambers on Call /Facebook. It's all one word, Dr. Chambers on Call. And you'll see the little photographs. And what's cool about the photograph is it varies. It goes from the way the photograph was originally to the way it was airbrushed so that she looks so much better. And they did things like bring in her hips, make her neck smoother, longer, thinner, took away the bags underneath her eyes. These are, by airbrushing standards, they're not huge. They're not the end of the world. But I was kind of disappointed. And I bring it up this morning because I want you to understand that with our obsession on food, our obsession with whether you're thin or you're obese or whatever it is, that we're pushing false images out there. And we're kind of blaming people and saying to them, if you're fat, it's your fault. You don't have self-discipline. You're eating too much. It's all of you. It's all you. It's all you. You're wrong. And when I talk to the nurses at work who have teenage daughters, and I hear about the pressures that these young women are on, I go like, wow, it's hard to understand some of it. I know, for instance, when I go into a room with a teenage girl and her mom, and I'm talking about stuff, and I'm talking about dosages or whatever, I'm always extremely careful to say that when you're giving this medicine, it's got to be based on the weight. And she weighs this, but which is an appropriate weight. She looks good. Because if you even hint as an authority figure that there's a problem with the weight issue, oh my God, disaster. It's not what you want to do. So I'm hoping that with articles like what Jezebel are doing and all these other people, what I'm hoping slowly but surely is we'll get more positive image, more images of what we really look like in the media. And more images of being healthy. Remember what Tina Fey said at the Golden Globes last week? When she was commenting on the now Oscar-nominated Matthew McConaughey, who lost almost 50 pounds for his role in Dallas Club Buyers. She said, well, that's just a typical day for a woman in Hollywood. And she's right. Women in Hollywood, just like the male actors, are paid not to eat. They are paid millions of dollars not to eat. But the rest of us don't live like that. And these are the images that we put out there. These are the unhealthy images that we put out there that we're all aspiring to. And no matter what age of life you're in, whether you're 20, 40, 60, they have an effect on it. Of course they do. You measure yourself by this, even if you don't do it consciously, even if you say, I hate Hollywood, I don't go to Hollywood movies, I don't watch this, I get all of that. But it seeps into the subconscious. It seeps in there. It kind of gets at you and it says to you, hey, guess what? When you're doing this stuff, you're not quite right. You're 50 and you're 20 pounds overweight and you're not as beautiful as blah, blah, blah. Or you're not doing this or you're not doing that. Or you look at some people in the magazines